ourselves and to find the answers. But the answers as creators in our life are within. We're so desperate to be secure that we feel we need to be extraordinary. We need to go above and beyond. We need to create fortresses around our fortresses around our fortresses. And those fortresses aren't just physical outside of ourself, but even fortresses around our heart, fortresses around our emotions, fortresses around our thinking. And those fortresses need to be extraordinary. Extraordinary, because the ordinariness we think of being a powerful creator in our own life and doing it in our own way and being an individual and not doing it like anyone else, not creating like anyone else, is too ordinary. Look at what other people are doing. Look at how well they're doing it. Look how much they have achieved. Look how much they have acquired and attained. They're so extraordinary. I'm so ordinary. I need to be like them. And yet it's precisely because we have, over the last 100 or so years, in the West, convinced ourselves that we are to consume life and not be creators of life. That we seek answers for how we ought to be and what we ought to look like and how we ought to talk and what we ought to wear from outside of ourselves. We seek from outside of ourselves what we ought to think, what we ought to believe, not realizing that all of those examples outside of ourselves, they too are also just creations of someone else. It's like the blind leading the blind when we approach life from a consumptive place. What are you doing? I'll emulate and copy you because clearly you have more money, so that makes you smarter or that makes you right. Or I'll copy you because you're more attractive, that must make you correct. Or I'll copy you because you're more popular. I won't trust my own inner knowing, my own trust in my own creator self. You're more popular. I must copy and consume your way of being. I must be more than I am because I'm so ordinary, and look at how extraordinary you are at the game, at the egoic game that we have created in our society to always one-up each other. And it's created the division that we see today, the hyper-individualism, where we can't be together, work together, collaborate together, create together. We all must one-up each other and show ourselves to be fiercely independent. And it's precisely this culture that has people starting to question, is this path that we've been on for 100 or so years relating to ourselves, not as human beings, but as human doings. And the thing that we do so effectively is consume. We call ourselves consumers. We have the consumer price index. We look outside of ourselves for what matters, for the answers. This consumptive way of living and being is hitting a breaking point for many. You can see it in the culture, the levels of anxiety, levels of stress, the levels of depression, the levels of violence. These are evidentiary signs of broken human beings. They're broken because they've spent their whole life living life as a human doing, consuming what other people say and they should do and who they say they should be, that their ordinary self, which is in fact extraordinary because it's unique, they saw it as boring and mundane and tried to emulate others. And now they feel lost and confused. This is why we have an identity crisis right now in the Western world. Everyone's so fixated on identity. What is my identity? And as we've discussed in our work in whole life architecture and in these meditations and these talks, identity is just another word for ego. The problem is most people haven't created their ego by design, and therefore they haven't created their life by design. They are tolerating a life and an identity by default, one that they have not created, but consumed. So what we're experiencing is the height of self-deception. And the ego is great at deceiving us. It begins with those little inner thoughts of you're not enough. You could be more, you could be better. You should be better. And that leads us to not even get acquainted with ourself and to know ourself. Because why would we want to get acquainted and get to know somebody that is so ordinary when we are looking without, from outside of ourselves, at all of these much more accomplished, effective people? We should be like them, says the ego. This is a form of self-deception. And what it's created is a society that is largely uninitiated. Initiation is, as Socrates said, to know yourself, to know thyself. Become initiated with yourself. You know, in many ancient civilizations, they would have initiation processes. I'm thinking of vision quests, for example, where at a coming of age, they had certain ceremonies and methods to help initiate someone into their own ordinariness, into their own power, into their own self, to learn that they were the creator of their life and that they had the ability to respond, they had responsibilities. And for example, we look at the crisis that we're seeing and witnessing in our culture with men, uninitiated. In older cultures, those men would have been, say, on a vision quest, sent out on their own into the wilderness to survive as a test. But what was the test? It wasn't if they did things right or not. It was, could they create the solutions to what they encountered on their own? Could they be the creator of the solutions to survive? Could they go within and discover who they were in the absence of everyone else around them, in the absence of any people to consume from, to consume ideas, to consume methods, to consume emotional support? Not that we shouldn't emotionally support someone, but through our work that we teach with emotional sobriety, there is a way for you to know and support yourself at an emotional level, to be able to regulate your own nervous system. Could the person on the vision quest regulate their nervous system? The skills that were learned in such initiation rites were designed to open something, to make the person no longer entirely dependent on those without, but to know how to trust themselves. And so we have a largely uninitiated society. And you can see it in the behavior, in the freaking out nature that's going on right now. The fighting over worldviews and perceptions and paradigms, right versus left, conservative versus liberal. This dualism, this both sidism, these camps that people find themselves in. This is just more uninitiated egos thrashing around. They don't know themselves. And they cherry pick so-called answers from all of these external sources for who they should be because they don't know themselves. The opportunity when people engage in the work of liberation, which is what we teach in whole life architecture, the opportunity is to know yourself and to develop yourself as the creator of your life. What will your life look like? What color and tone will it take? What shape will it take? What choices will you make that align with your whole and integrated self? What initiation process will you experience in that? So that we can take on whatever happens gracefully, powerfully, calmly, creatively. No longer are we a walking, habituated, unconscious reaction to everything that is happening to us because we realize life isn't happening to us. Life is happening, and it is us who is relating to life as though it is happening to us as a victim, or whether we have autonomy and sovereignty as creator to take life on and to create what it is that we choose, what we desire for ourself and for our community. But we must be initiated because we are largely uninitiated. We are largely trapped in the self-deception that the ego creates, that it is the other that is the problem, not us. We have no responsibility, says the ego, for what's happening. It's them. And guess what them are saying back to you? It's them. We have an unliberated, highly conditioned society of people who are just consuming answers for who they should be and how they should live from outside of themselves. They have not been initiated and learned how to be a creator, that they are a creator in their own life, that they have the power to do that, that you are not a victim, that it's not someone else's fault for what's happening to you. This is deception, self-deception. So the opportunity is to liberate yourself from that self-deception and realize the creator that you are. And there's never been a more time to ask these questions, a more important time to ask these questions now about what it means to be human. And it begins with accepting our ordinariness, our uniqueness. And that makes us extraordinary. I'm going to pause now and invite Mignon to guide us through the neurosculpting technique and meditation for this morning.
All right, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Chad. We'll be exploring releasing the idea of aspiring and instead invite the ordinary. And as you know, we may hear words spelled out or dialing things up and down with fun imagery, all by design. A process that helps calm the nervous system, prime the brain for creating supportive ideas, and giving agency in how we move through life. So let's begin this meditation by settling into the body, noticing the support beneath you. And notice how you are gently supported effortlessly. You might take a moment to become aware and orient to the space you are in, noticing the room and furnishings within the room in relation to you. What's in front, maybe like a wall or some other interesting item, maybe what's overhead and what's behind. And as you are orienting to your body in this space at this moment, you can relax and let your mind wander. Minds do that, but gravity keeps you right here, just as your breath does. Your breath that is breathing naturally, consistent. And with your awareness, you can influence your breath, breathing deeper or slower. And on your next inhale, you might become aware of the air as it flows in through your nose. And how it releases in your belly and lungs on the exhale. The inhale and the exhale, the in and the out. As your breath continues to flow effortlessly. And as your breath continues to breathe itself, you might take note of any place in your body holding tension. What if you could just let that go and soften and relax just a little bit more? Letting your shoulders drop, unclenching your jaw, and maybe giving your neck or anywhere else just a little stretch. And as you are relaxing, there may be things adding to your comfort. The comfort of the familiar space, the comfort of a soft cushion, or the comfort of knowing you have what you need in this moment to be right here. What do you notice that is adding to your comfort at this moment? As you are making note of your comfort, I invite you to gently close your eyes or soften your gaze if that feels comfortable. And because you are fully supported comfortably, you can let your creative mind wander playfully. It might be interesting to imagine that humans all had necks as long as giraffes. Imagine wearing a turtleneck, or how different buildings, homes, and cars would be for such long anatomy. Or perhaps it's even more fun to imagine that t-shirts had designs that moved in animations, like live photos. What shirt could you imagine wearing? Your favorite athlete in action, or some other character or scene? Maybe that's the t-shirt of the future. Your creative mind is awakened, and I welcome you as the curator of this meditation, a meditation that releases the extraordinary and brings in simple embodiment. Maybe your mind has spent years reaching for great expectations or attached to some idea. If there is a word or attribute that comes to mind, what is it? Something like WEALTH or success, maybe recognition. What word comes to mind for you? And how does your creative mind imagine this word, idea, or aspiration? Does it have a color? Maybe it has a temperature or a texture, like red hot or blue and sharp, maybe shiny and cool. What does creative mind imagine? And if you were to imagine a sensation with the idea of this, where in your body do you imagine it to be? Maybe it's in the palm of your hand. Maybe it's in your head or somewhere else. But what if you didn't have to be extraordinary? What if in this moment you could simply be? What would happen if you tried on this possibility? The possibility that by being ordinary, you are already extraordinary. And if you could choose an I am statement that describes an attribute of yourself, what spontaneously comes to mind? An I am that expresses your pure, uncomplicated presence that feels natural. Maybe like, I am strong, or I am funny, or I am enough, or some other word or words that suit you well, authentically. Your breath is breathing and your body is supported, still held right here. And with this word or idea, you might imagine the extraordinary ideas of yourself falling away like leaves letting go and floating down to the earth, or ice melting, or a flame cooling to embers. Because here in the ordinary, there might be peace, ease, or truth. What does creative mind imagine letting go of? And what do you see as your natural state of being? And with a deep inhale and slow exhale, you might imagine shifting shapes or colors or sensations. As your mind explores, what do you imagine? Do you imagine shifting colors or shapes or other words of simple truths, like a smile that really makes someone's day, or like a cup of water that quenches the thirst and is essential to living? What is your mind telling you about the nature of your ordinary being? As your story unfolds, notice how it resonates in your body. Are there any shifts that you perceive or imagine? Maybe it's steady, perhaps peaceful or true. And this is yours, nothing to reach for. Maybe something that has perhaps been here all along. And you are welcome to breathe it in and invite it to settle. And I invite you to imagine a dial. It could be a fancy knob or an old-fashioned radio tuner. Maybe it has settings from 1 to 10. 1 being a gentle whisper, and 10 being a confident beating like a drum. What happens when you gently turn up the dial? Does it feel good at 8? Does it grow stronger and more expansive? Is it comfortable? Or do you prefer to turn it down to a 2, letting it settle softly for right now? You are in control of the dial. You are the one fine-tuning this experience of your authentic, ordinary self. And as you explore this, and as this shift and vibration settles into your body, notice, where do you sense it most now? Maybe it's in your mouth and speaking your truth. Maybe it's in your ears or your fingertips or somewhere else. I wonder if this is something that has been simmering and ready for exploration, or is it an idea that has been tried on and ready for expansion? Either way, you can bring yourself right back to this moment by placing your non-dominant hand on your body to remind you of this, if that feels comfortable for you. Or maybe there's a small gesture, thumb to finger, or something that can bring you back to this knowing whenever you choose. Just a quiet mark in your body's memory that will signal the return of this moment. If you were to give this feeling a name, what might that be? maybe a simple word or words that hold meaning, or perhaps something playful, a made up word. And that word, when spoken, thought, or written, brings you right back here. And just as your breath moves in and out without needing to be noticed, this name and this gesture are always available to you, ready to bring you back to the quiet truth of simply being. With every breath, you are welcome to experience yourself more deeply, anchored in the quiet truth of ordinary self. And you can continue to explore this extraordinary moment of ordinary for the remaining time of the meditation and return often. Be well.
And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back from your meditation from the world within and back to the world without. As we break for today, something to leave you with is the consideration of how and in where in your life you are in non-acceptance of your life or of yourself, where you think that you somehow need to do more and be more, where there is an inclination to want to consume from outside yourself what other people are saying you should do and who other people are saying you should be. And it may not be overt. It may be very subtle. It may be what the culture is saying you should do and who you should be. Or maybe it's more direct with people in your sphere of influence and community. But see if you can consider, I invite you to consider today those areas where you are not in acceptance, where you do not have approval for who you authentically are. You may not know who you authentically are, and And that's even fine to admit as well if you come to that conclusion. You know, I've never thought of it. I've never done the work, you might say. That's what our program, Whole Life Architecture, is for, to help liberate people from their conditioning and to discover who it is, as the Buddhist monks asked the question, who were you when you were born? To discover that and to then create a life by design, as opposed to merely tolerating a life, a conditioned life by default. Giving yourself permission to even inquire into this is the first step. Where am I not at peace? Where am I not in acceptance? Where am I in self-criticism and judgment? And seeing where those areas are as you go about your day, note them, document them. For those are areas that are out of alignment with yourself. And what we seek to do is to create alignment. Wishing you all a wonderful day, and we will continue tomorrow's meditation series with a watcher observer meditation. See you all then.